Yeah, you're doing the right thing. Sucks that the hits aren't great, but get rid of it. I wasn't sure about the XP drop, but you could always try and follow this up with a Scythe anyway. Here, this is bad. Don't ever stand here. This used to be a very common occurrence in a lot of the really fast runs, but this is a bad thing to do. You want to be standing so the melee is separate. So take one step to the west here. And the reason for this is because the melee mini blob dies one tick slower than the other mini blobs. So let's say the major and the melee are stacked, and now you want to hit the melee first. You can't because it's not easy to distinguish them. The other thing is, if you want to, because you're not scything these guys, if you want to blood barrage or phantom, then you need to know the melee is separate from the major so you can kill the major first. But it's a little thing. Depends on the circumstance that you're given. But the main thing is to not clump them, unless you have to. But TLDR, the melee mini just dies a tick early. Sorry, a tick later. No need to kill this nibbler here. If you want to really speed things up here, the way you would do it is by killing the blob and then specking the bat and then taking out the nibbler to give you a higher chance of killing bat. Alternatively, if you stand here and move one tile across, that guy's going to move over the nibbler anyway, so you can get a free chin off. Yeah, you want to be one tile further around here. And if the bat's not dead prey range, yeah, this is fine. Augury flicking isn't worth it ever, period. It's just not worth it. You're better off. So this is one of those things that comes down to, in theory, it's better, but in practice, it's not better. It's much better to put your time, like it's much better to put your mental effort into doing things that are conducive to saving time than opposed to saving HP, in most cases. So have a look at the XP drops. Keep your eye on the XP drop instead of the prayer, and have your finger, like trigger finger, ready on the blowpipe as opposed to augury. 2 blowpipes and chin the bat. Okay, so here, if you start on this tile here, you would do one chin to begin with, and then you would do two blowpipes, and you would move towards the northwest over here, and the bat will drag over the pillar by going into them. So the bat will end up like on top of them directly, and you can chin either them or the nibblers. So the key there is that remembering it's a set piece of chin, blowpipe, blowpipe, chin. 240, retake those. This isn't the best way to approach this wave. So when you have blobs like this, where you have some further south, it's generally better to kill the one up here. And the reason is you can throw a T-bow to the far one. You can throw a T-bow to the far one, and you can kill the mini blobs here with a chin, or at least get a good chin off while they're clumped. And then if this one dies to the T-bow, you can throw a chin and it's going to land on all 3 anyway. But if you kill the one up here first, and then you kill this one during the intermission, this guy's melee is going to drag out of position. So you would never ever come up here and hit this guy, you would finish off this guy entirely first. It's not that you want the T-bow to one hit, it's that you want to maximize the potential of the clump from this guy, but without getting this guy. Basically, it matters that this guy is here and clumped. So you would be standing like here, kill, T-bow, run back, clump. If the T-bow kills, clump the second, and then move everything back. But in this position, you don't get the clump in the first place, which is really bad. And okay, you do get the clump, but it's kind of like at the expense of, I mean. The problem with doing this is that you've already got blowpipe hits on this guy over here, which means your T-bow has done half the damage that it could do on average. You've wasted 2 ticks hitting him. I guess it's a waste of 2 ticks, effectively. It's not efficient it's not efficient pathing usage. But yeah, in short, kill the one that's further north first. It's just better. As long as the other one is in T-bow range, kill the one that's further north. Good. One thing you want to do, make it so that the plugin, it shows the outline of the NPC even after it's died. This is really important as far as learning very specific setups for on-pillar nibblers. So in a lot of cases, for example, let's say your nibblers are going to the west pillar. If by some circumstance you threw out a barrage, you know, or at least you should know, that if nibblers go to the west pillar, you can chin them immediately and it will hit all of them. Whereas if you threw out a barrage and tried to chin them going to the northeast, you couldn't do that. Same with them going south. But as far as this goes, it's nice to know when the NPCs die. So like, you know that you could have hit them, and you have to learn this by knowing when they die. And the same is true for things like the mini blob, although it's more important for nibblers. So all I'm saying here is make it so the NPC outline lingers after death until the animation is completely over. It's relevant for learning setups. Okay, 160, we're here at 230, 235, 236, that's fine, pretty expected. Scythe here, good, unlucky. Nothing wrong with that. Song is Before You Go by Jean Medina. If you want to here, this probably doesn't work, but it's worth trying these things, and if it works, great. So in this position here, if you're attacking with the melee, you can drag the melee down beyond north pillar, and you can get the bat to align up with the nibbler on the pillar. Worth thinking about, but in most cases the melee will die too early, so in most cases. Oh, also, hello, I'm here now. Yeah, not much to say here. Bats are pieces of shit, kill the bats. Yep. Yep, get closer here. Yep, perfect. Yep, good. T-bow, good. A little bit of flicking could go a bit further. But, sure. A bit awkward setup, no worries. You're piping things to get rid of them. Fine. I think could have been a bit better though. Condition melee is my first thought here. Condition melee, condition melee, condition melee. Does he do it? No. Okay. So this is the time I introduce you to the concept of conditioning, which you may or may not have heard me talk about. The idea here is, I'm actually going to pull up a clip if I can find it. Because I have a very good example of it. Somewhere. Inferno clips educational. Well, I did call it a perfect example, so it better be. Okay, here's an example. The concept that we're going to talk about is conditioning. And conditioning is really simple. It means that you are hitting an NPC to condition its HP to a point where you want it to be. In this case, we're trying to keep the melee HP, we're trying to keep the blob alive as possible. So we are both conditioning the blob HP and also the melee HP. We don't want to kill the blob or the melee until they are in a good position. So the example setup here is, I've just killed the bat and I have a blob and a melee and I want to chill them both. So we don't want to kill the blob, which means I stop attacking it after one hit. Now the blob is fully conditioned, now I condition the melee. And all this time I'm getting them in position, so condition melee, okay. Now it's in position, now we kill the blob. Now the blob is dead, the melee's in position. You're moving into it and you're getting a value chin. The melee HP is now low enough that one chin is likely to kill it, but you're also not likely to kill the mini blobs, which means you're getting all the benefit of the chin whilst keeping it all stacked and finishing with a mini. That's the goal, and that's why this is like such a common and such a useful setup. So in full, you're deleting whatever's available, you're keeping the blob HP high enough to not die, you're getting melee in position, you're finishing the blob, Go back on melee, click past, and finish. Everything should be conditioned nicely. Wave is good. That's the whole thing in one go. So in this position here, instead of killing the blob, you want to think about a melee position and have it to drag down properly. So you can hit the blob once, and that's fine. But if you hit it more than this, like that, blob's dead. Now the melee's in a position that it'll never be useful. So instead what we do is condition blob, bring it to an HP that's relevant, drag the melee round while doing so, and you can hit the melee while you do this. Just hit melee, hit melee, hit melee. Stand 3 tiles away. And technically speaking, what I did before wasn't quite right. You shouldn't run directly up, you should run an L movement, because this gives you better clumping with minis. So technically you should be running from 1 tile further north of where you are, in an L movement, 2 south and 1 west. The melee will drag over the mage blob, because the mage blob has no blocking. The melee will be underneath you, which gives you 3 separated blobs, as they should be, and you can shin pretty much anything to hit anything else. So nowadays, we're doing slightly different movement nowadays, but sure. But this is a huge concept, and the reason why it's so important is because of all the things that save you time in the all the things that save you time in the Inferno that aren't RNG based, this is the one thing that is not RNG based. This is the one thing that you can actually have control over to set up to make time. And every time you chin minis, you're doing not just 3 ticks, sorry, you're not just doing a chin worth of damage on the melee, you're bypassing the accuracy requirement to hit it. In other words, chinning on melees with good setups is the single biggest thing to work on to get good at Inferno, period. I don't think there's anything else that's more important. So anytime you see the potential for a setup, really try and struggle to make it work, because even if it takes you a while to get good at it, it's the most valuable thing. A little bit of a misclick there, no worries. HP is low enough to warrant blood barraging, so okay. Positioning here is not so great. I would stand a bit closer to the edge of the pillar here, or to the center, because anytime you do this, this means the melee is trapped whenever it comes for you, and you want to go back around the pillar. Whereas in this case, you have to run 2 tiles, and you're going to end up running out into a melee. So this is very much a case of don't come too far into the pillar, because now you're kind of stuck here. You have to kill the melee. And now this is going to be awkward for timing, like this, yeah. So now the melee is hitting you, the blob is hitting you, you can't pray flick this. Yeah. You can use bats in this position to run under them for the blob flick. Chin the ranger here, good chin. Okay, good. You do have a nibbler over there, but I think it's better to come around and start hitting this blob immediately to let that guy start dragging in. It ends up okay, depends how fast you kill it though. And now the number one thing on your mind should be, I need to deal with that nibbler over there. So in the ideal world, you would throw a chin and then come and stand like over here on the edge of this blob. Because if this one-shots, you're never getting over there in time. Right, like this. And whenever we're dealing with really far out nibblers, go for them first, because your chin has travel time. So it's not just that you kill a mini, and so like if you chin a mini, then chin a far nibbler, as opposed to chinning the far nibbler, then piping the mini, or like chinning the mini, you're losing time every time you do this. So going for this guy either in the intermission of the blob, or before it spawns, or before you have to kill the bloblets is better. But arguably going for one chin on minis is better first because of the clumping, so you're kind of in a position where you have to reorder what you kill in that wave. Cutting it a bit close there on the movement. If your hits are really big in this scenario, like they are right now, you want to step into the melee. Because even if a melee is attacking you, if it is stalled in movement, that movement carries over to the death animation. So in this example, if you hit a big enough number on the last 2 hits to have killed this melee, that nibbler dies way before the melee does. In this case, it's okay. Okay, you actually got unlucky, but yeah. But stalled movement does matter. 11 HP, Phantom it. A common Phantom tile is if you see the edge of this like yellow shit, there's one like brown tile or like one darker tile over here. That's the one I use. I don't know what the best tile is, but like anywhere on this outer edge here works pretty well. But this is definitely a Phantom over HP. Okay, we're starting 28 HP at 630 going into Ranger, so not bad. We want to be looking to super combat here because we're 111. Yep. And one more hit than Scythe. Good. Yeah. This is awkward. This is awkward because the bat's behind the pillar. There's a couple of things you can do here to make life easier for yourself. The first thing is having HP. By virtue of having HP, you're given a bit more freedom here, so phantoming the earlier wave is just better. But in the case of this, these guys are split, which means chinning is never the option here. Because at a bare minimum, you are going to have to chin again. So you may as well pipe. And while doing this, you can drag the bat around the pillar, because right now he's just stuck. So this is unlucky that this doesn't kill it, but at the same time, now this is just a huge tick loss wave. So like what I would do here is, I would have a bit more HP because of the pre-wave, and then I would probably start seeing this and be like, okay, get the bat out from the pillar, so start running over there and running towards the bat. Because this ranger is out of the picture entirely for now. So the right thing to do here would be start piping and moving and piping and moving. Throw a chin towards the bat and run towards the bat, and then throw a chin back towards the ranger. At most, you've used 2 chins and lost 2 ticks as opposed to whatever this is. Because now I guess you're going to bat and chin. Yeah, -1 tick to the movement there, sure, and minus like 2 or 3 from before. Awkward, but can be solved a bit better. We're still barraging these waves, and these are very, very simple waves. Even with 2 bats out, this is simple. There's very little that can hit you prayer-wise, so as a rule of thumb, complexity is another thing I bring up a lot. So wave complexity is a construct of the amount of NPCs in the wave and the amount of bats in the wave. The amount of bats adds more to complexity in the wave than the amount of NPCs. As far as good waves to barrage, the best waves to gain HP back are waves that are not complex. So waves where you have a singular ranger or a singular major, or waves where there are no bats. So a major plus a blob or a ranger plus 2 blobs would be considered good waves to barrage. Melees also add some complexity, but not as much as bats. Blobs are not complex, majors and rangers are not complex. And the way this works out is that melees drag towards you a lot and run over nibblers for good chins. Blobs, majors, and rangers don't do this, in the same way that bats will also do the same as bats will do the same as melees. And that added complexity adds up to the amount of potential that you can get out of chins, because as we know, chins when combined with other targets give you the majority of your time saved when using chins, and that's the best way to make up time. So that's why waves with bats and melees, especially bats, are so important to be chinning them. And waves with blobs and other stuff, if there's no bats in the wave, if it's a collapsible wave, now you want to barrage, because the chins can't give you a time save that's relevant, and the loss isn't that big. It also gives you time to set up for your 2-ticking. But in short, if 2 bats in the wave, never barrage. It's just bad. 1 bat in the wave, maybe. And if you have like ranger blob, ranger 2 blobs, ranger melee, go for it. But not these waves. You lose too much time. You're telling you to stop barraging at 28 to 31. I don't know what's on 28 to 31, but if you tell me what's on the wave, I can tell you whether it's good or not. Good Scythe. It's a very, very important concept though. Let me have a look at this. So we know the blob is over. You guys can't see me, but I know the blob is like behind the inventory, so... Based on your tile markers, at least in video, it is not distinguishable for me whether there are two nibblers here or here. This outer ring does look a little bit more bright, but I don't know if that's just how it is. But the way a lot of us have our tile markers set up is if there are multiple nibblers on one spot, you can actually see it quite visibly nowadays. So this might be something to do with your NPC markers, but change it so that it's obvious, because if I see a 53 XP drop when I'm chinning, and I know that there are two NPCs there, the brighter marker... Okay, so in this case, because you know there are two there, and you hit 53, you know the likelihood is that one of them has died and one of them is not alive. And therefore you would switch to blowpipe, as opposed to sending another chin. In this case, you would probably send a third chin. And you do, and it's a kill, but you've been dragged there. Okay. Scythe this, scythe this, scythe this, scythe this, scythe this, scythe this, scythe this. Okay. Now this is a new concept that has come to Inferno Speeds, and the reason that you scythe this is because pretty much under no circumstances are you going to be able to ever get to that ranger. That ranger is gone, it's out the picture. Which means you can treat this blob as if it is a singular blob, the last thing in the wave. So do one pipe hit into a scythe and come and stand on one of these two tiles over here. And that way you're getting all the benefit of the scythe, you are still giving the ranger time to drag, but you are still able to get the benefit of it out. Because right now, if you consider what's happening here, also don't stand on this tile here, stand one further in, because now if you kill it here, if you kill it in this position, the melee is not going to drag to you, the melee is going to drag over here. So stand on the middle of the pillar almost always. But yeah, one blowpipe to scythe on this guy, stand here, finish, and then the ranger will be in range of a chin. Nice try here, but the correct pathing is over there. I guess that does work, it's just a bit awkward. I thought you were trying to drag the ranger, to be honest. Okay. Yeah, treat. The lesson there is to treat singular long range away from other thing blobs as a scytheable object. You're killing the bat too early here. Kill the blob and then the bat, because now, instead of getting 2 pipe hits here, or a potential 2 pipe hits, you don't. Our thing wasn't great here, but you made up for it, that's fine. Kill this guy, sure. This is very much a bit more personal due to how I play, but in theory, killing this guy last is great, because it's a free 2 ticks, right? But I think if your ranger has enough HP to scythe, you could go for the ranger as well. It's pretty much up to you, so sure. Still blood barraging. Okay, I noticed you didn't flick the blob, whether that be by choice or not, I don't know, but interesting. That T-bow was probably a little bit too... Chin is fine here. You can also do 1 pipe into 1 chin if you want to, and you would lose 1 tick for that, but you would be gaining because you get the pipe hit, I guess. So if you lose a tick to get a pipe into a chin, as opposed to just a chin, you make up +1 tick on your pipe. So when it comes down to this setup here, what we normally do is we do a pipe from this range here, because if you count your tiles 1, 2, 3, 4, so you can stand on this line here, and you can do a pipe into a chin, then run back 2 tiles and get the clump. You lose a tick overall, but you save 1 tick in how it works out. For this pathing here, remember to stand here, not here. And once you've done that, the melee will drag into position, which means you're able to step 1 tile further southwest to this tile here. And this tile is incidentally a pipe range away from the ranger, which means you wouldn't have lost a tick. Like that. Well, actually, I don't think you did because you finished it with a. But let's say if you I think it just dies with chin here. Okay, you got the movement off anyway, but the main thing is to use that time to micro move. Good. Why can't the melee blob be stacked? It can be, but the idea behind it is that you want it to be distinct because it has a longer death animation than the other bloblets. Which means if you're presented with an option to pipe a target between the major and the melee and they're stacked, it's really hard to discern it, especially even with a right click. They have similar names. But if they're separate, you can very clearly just click the melee. That's the main reason nowadays. The other reason comes down to phantom barraging. Okay, when you the melee is going to drag here. When you do this setup with the mini blob, you want to get 2 pipe hits on this side. 2 to 3 pipe hits on this side instead of just 1. And instead of this, they'll all be shuffled up 1 south. Because otherwise this happens. This doesn't always happen if you get there fast enough, but it's awkward enough to not want to make it happen. And here we want to start immediately attacking the blob, but not on this. Sure, this works. I take it back, this works. We're missing some ticks here. You chinned the wrong one. You gotta wait for the melee. You can do some blazer tech here, and you can actually right click the melee while it's underneath the ranger, and it will always be the second option. So if you want to tag it early, you can right click melee, and it will get the ranger as well. The other option here, which is what I thought you were gonna do, is once this is dead, you can do a pipe hit on the ranger, come to the middle of the pillar, and attack this guy over here. And then by standing in the middle of the pillar, it is kill blob, 2 attacks on the ranger, step back, chin the ranger, and you get everything. So what you did here is fine, but the only difference between doing this method and what I just proposed is the fact that you cannot immediately attack the blob without having pathed out further east. And the process of pathing east is going to take HP off the ranger, which is bad. So this is more of like a preconditioning concept. This is more of like the wrong way to go about it, though. It's one that works, but isn't ideal. And then, yeah, chin the melee. No Scythe? Sure. I know you were, like, dealing with a hit there, but Scythe. Good pathing. That's the correct way to solve that. You're flicking your overhead but not rigger. I mean, I know a lot of people do this. I don't understand it. I think this increases the chance for a mistake to occur, but I don't know. I also suck at flicking, so I can't really say anything. -1 tick there for the switch into the Scythe. If you see an XP drop, commit. It's easier to flick overheads than it is to flick rigger in a lot of cases, but I find it to be a lot more dangerous and not worth it, but that is also just my preference. There's no right way to go about it. This is the wrong way to solve the wave. The XP drop here kills the nibblers, and I think you know this as well. I mean, you do target the melee regardless, but like... if you bring the melee to the pillar, you end up in a position where you can't get to this ranger with a blowpipe, which means you cannot do optimal DPS unless you take a hit into the melee. And because a bat is behind it, if you want to path to the ranger in a time that would mean the melee doesn't die, you're going to be taking bat hits. Unless you do diagonal like back pathing, which is just annoying. So you're kind of in a position where moving towards the ranger here is the better option. As soon as you see that XP drop here, as soon as you see this XP drop on the nibblers, this one here, path towards the ranger. Because you can flick this guy and that guy and the bat stays spotted, and you can get to the ranger. This is kind of like lazy, I guess. And if you don't want to be hit by the bat, you can always path like diagonally back and get to about here. It does work, it's just annoying. But we lose 1 tick there, we lose another tick coming to the ranger. So we've lost 2 ticks by doing this. So in the case of This is one of the things where like scything the ranger is just as good as like killing the bat last, as long as the scythe is good. If the bat is full HP, yes, keep the bat alive. But it's not worth losing the 2 ticks you could have gained from killing the bat to keep the bat alive. You know what I mean? Yo, congrats, Scott. You made some big money. Okay, what else we got? We're still barraging. You're not over barraging, but you got to be a bit careful about how this works. Does this work? You're going to get dragged, aren't you? Yeah, okay, yeah, I saw that kind of coming. The easier way to set this up, so you went to the right tile, and then you click like here. Sorry, let me go back again. The correct way to set up this, there is only one way. This is, so on this tile here, you do path there just fine. I want to get the click there. Here. So on this marked tile, the way you deal with the 2 options is 1 pipe hit from this tile, run to the center of the pillar, and come out by chinning the ranger. That's the setup for the ranger. And the reason you do this instead of some weird janky pathing over here, like going down, is because if you go to the middle of the pillar for 1 tick with a pipe and come out with chins, it's obviously tick lossless, the ranger can't see you, drags in 1 tile, and chinning the ranger with 0 def is the same as chinning the nibblers, so it's just an easier thing to set up. And if you want to, after you do that, you can pull yourself further back into the pillar to prevent the melee from getting to you. That's kind of optional though. The setup for a major is a bit different. Because you're T-bowing it, you can come into the pillar any tick and come out immediately, and then go for the chin. But for the ranger, this is a lot more interesting. And a lot more of a set piece to go directly to the center and then out. But it prevents all this weird dragging stuff. Now, you do have a good setup with chins for the bat, so what you can do, because you know the melee, actually no, the melee is too far down. You can't set this up. Yeah. You can chin that though, that's chinnable. Nice. And if you take a step back here, that's also chinnable again. Not bad though, that's fine. The main thing is getting the set piece for the ranger and the nibbler. Very common. You didn't 2-tick that, you moved back in time. Whether that was intentional or not, I don't know, but nice. Interesting. Where is the melee? Oh! Would you look at that? I didn't know this was possible. Wait, did you run over it? Oh, hey Blazer, look at this. The melee mini blob does not have opaqueness. I didn't know this. Look at that. Blazer, are you here? Look at this. So you know how we thought that... Wait, am I being really stupid? Yeah, so the melee has blocking after it moves. And so... Wait, so this just means that all 3 of the NPCs do not have blocking. Melee went to the east? No, it didn't. It pathed to the east? No, it didn't. I don't think it did. Look, it went straight over it. I thought so too. I thought it went to the east as well. It didn't. It pathed straight over it. It can't have pathed to the east. But yeah, it just means that all 3 of the mini blobs have, including the melee, have no blocking. And the melee mini blob, when it paths over something else, I don't know if the thing that the melee paths over would then gain blocking, because the melee gains blocking once it moves, even if it moves into something else, which you wouldn't think would be... How does that make any sense? If it moves into another thing, it gives its... I don't know. Game mechanics are dumb. Anyway, this is a minor thing, but... Sure. Can you start away from start? Yeah, this is an interesting one. It can negate the blocking if another NPC was on that tile, but it's not. This blob doesn't move as soon as it dies. This blob is stationary from now, and at no point does anything come into contact. You see the tile is on here, you get Major, Ranger, Melee. Nothing else is touching it. That guy... That melee is 1 tile away. It doesn't touch it. It doesn't touch it. That's quite interesting. Yeah. Okay, noted. In other words, the takeaway here is you have to have the melee move for it to have blocking. The rest won't have blocking unless they move. Well, no, it's the same for everything. You need everything to move for it to gain blocking. Even if it paths over another NPC, it will maintain its blocking for the period of which it is spawning. Okay. You can use comma and dot to advance 1 frame at a time. Okay. I don't think I'll get used to it, but sure. Okay. Starting with barrage here still. This is fine. Okay. So you hit an XP drop that kills these two. These two are dead, which means this guy over here is alive. In this scenario, the first thing I'd be doing is switching to chins and trying to hunt it the fuck down, because this guy's going to be a problem later. So step 1 here is to go for that guy earlier, especially since these guys are dead. T-bow on the melee, for some reason, is always quite good, so sure. The only thing I would advise you here is do the same. So remember, like earlier in the wave, I was like, if you come to this bit of the pillar, you can't get out again, you're kind of stuck. So when you're dealing with melees, especially with range, or like when you're dealing with non-stackable NPCs that push over to the west side of the pillar, you want to be on the furthest west of the north side of the pillar. In other words, you want to be on this tile here, always. Because now you're forced to come out this way. And this way is just an awful way to be. It's just not nice. For starters, you're not close to the nibbler that's now on the west pillar. And you get this shitty line of sight because that's just how the west side works. That's just how the east side works. Check Twitch whispers, please. Sure. And remember, I said at the start of the wave, if you don't deal with that fucking nibbler, you're gonna have to deal with it later. And yeah, this ranger is gonna die in like 1 or 2 hits, and it could die before you're ready to deal with this. Okay. It turned out not too bad, but if the ranger died earlier there, now it's a problem. And for what it's worth, it's one of those things where it is worth keeping note of things like that end up dying. Because it's like, sure, I could have, it turned out okay, therefore it's not worth fixing what I did. But on average, sometimes if that ranger dies early, you're now losing ticks over there. So it's important to be on top of those things. Okay. This position here is good. Didn't expect the one shot, so watch the XP drop. What's the plan for the melee? Not the best plan. That melee is still going to hit you. Drag it back. Oh, you're out of run right now. I see the problem. So, stam consumption, be a bit more careful. That's fine. Gonna have a split. Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna have a split major. More than once now, you've been flicking mini blobs and you've lost the tick. Flicking mini blobs is good and relevant, but don't do it at the expense of losing time. It's a bit like the augury flick at the start, it's no point. Scythe. The hits are not good. The hits are not good. This is fine. This is what you should do. Oh, yeah, okay. I was going to say, come and kill the blob. I want to see what you do here. Now hit the ranger, don't hit. So in this position, that melee, if you allow it, is going to drag into the blobs for a clump. And all you have to do to make this work better is to run around the west side of the pillar and start attacking the ranger. Because the melee here now contains blocking. This melee now contains blocking. So as soon as you run... Actually, if you run through it, it won't contain blocking. Oh, maybe that's not the case. But if you... Okay, so this is an important note. I need to think of this. So if you run through this melee as is, it will not have blocking. However, if you run through before it... If you run through that tile while it's on the ranger here, it will contain blocking. So you have to think about this. But all you have to do is take one step like over anywhere, like you can step either into that spot here or down here anywhere, and that guy's now clumped. Free clumping. Biggest time save in the game. Start working your way over, yeah. Don't chin it. That's fine. Yep. HP very low. Stand here. Don't move closer. Yep. Good. And now, okay, sure, this is fine. Simple wave, no problem. Scythe for final hit because overkill? Yes. It's overkill and it's melee, which means it's a tick faster. Even if you Scythe the ranger on 1 HP, it's worth it. You're saving a tick every time. Okay, so now 21 HP, Phantom. Phantom, 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 Phantom. You're getting very, very little time save out of chinning these guys. Sorry, I don't mean Phantom, I just mean Barrage. This is not a complex wave, it is a simple wave. Barraging is now good. So you've been barraging on bad waves and chinning on good waves, or the other way around. You can Scythe a little bit higher than that. A little bit higher. Phantom, 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 Phantom. Phantom! Don't click that NPC. Be careful of which one you click. Never click a corner one. That is clearly the corner one. Click one of the ones in the center here. Because if it decides to clump well, it'll be a better barrage. And yes, so you know this. You can do one barrage into one chin for West Pillar, so that's good. Great. This is a simple wave. Do not chin this wave. Yeah. Good. And you know you can insta-chin this. Good. Great. So we're entering Major at 16-16, which is about right for this. Good. You don't mean Phantom? Sorry, I don't mean Phantom. No. I don't mean Phantom. Should we get some nice nice waves to sit back and relax for? Good movement. Nicely done. If you take a step west of here, one tile west, you can chin both together. And if you want to take it a step further after that, you can also run back to this tile here, drag the Major closer, run back in and trap the bat on the corner, assuming the bat's alive. You see me do this a lot nowadays, and if you want to, you can set up a 2-tick for the Major and anything else. And if you pray Mage and take one step further north, praying range on the 2-tick, you can chin the bat, come back before it hits you again. So what you're doing is you're forcing a 2-tick with the bat and the Major instead of a 3-tick bat, and that allows you to continue to chin this nibbler. But forcing the 2-tick there is really nice on the bat. And you don't even have to run out west here immediately. You could set up the Major thing and then do it, but again, chinning is free time. Very important. You want to be considering the blowpipe here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I said this before I even saw it, but on that XP drop here, I was like, I'm not certain that's dead. Here. Where was it? Here? No. Yeah, so on just here, on that XP drop, I was like, you want to consider the blowpipe, and the reason is not because... It's because that looks like it's dead, but you never know. And if you turn your camera and do that, yeah, now you're losing time, because that T-bow has travel time. So if you have to take a bat hit to get into close range to ensure the kill, do it. But you are fucked there by a bad XP drop, so... I think you clicked the wrong one there. You actually just missed the back one. Did you get a T-bow hit off here? You did, okay. I don't think you can hit the Major from there. No, you can't. Okay, so that's just something you need to learn, but sure. This is one of those spawns where I would 1,000,000,000,000% just kill the bats. If you one-shot both these bats, you lost so much time. Yeah, so you 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 dead. 11 ticks gone, so just kill the bats. When you're presented with this wave, and it will come up a lot, if you're using my start tile over here, on this tile here, what you can do is you can linger Mage Prey for 3 ticks, and then flick range for 1 tick. Sorry, you can flick range for 2 ticks. And then you can go Mage for 2 ticks, and then you go range for 3 ticks again. And that brings you back on a 2 tick, but off 1, as it were. You'll have to watch an example of that. I have one saved somewhere. Let me have a look at my file thingies again. Melee, nice blob recorrection. What is it? Ah, so loud. No, that's not the one. That's me dying. I don't think I have a clip of it. Okay, there's a setup for this though, using the start tile. This is and it's the only one you have to learn for it as well, so it's worth doing. But it just means you wouldn't be alternating like this, which is nice. You gonna make a vid? Nah. You want to be blow piping this. Scythe this. Good scythe. Get in position. Correct position. Good. I would love to make it a really just kill the bat. This is one of those like stay behind north pillar and just kill the bat moments. You would actually, so in this case you would move to the east side of the pillar over here, kill bat, hit major, or at the very least hit bat once then kill major. There's nothing wrong with keeping the bat alive, it's just kind of pointless. I feel like it's making life hard for yourself. Yeah, we have this awkward clump now, so we're losing ticks here. Yeah. The finish was nice, but the mid-wave needed some work. Kill the bat. Kill the bat, 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 kill the fucking bat! You're leaving bats alive way too long. Kill bat. Bat bad. You have a spec. Just nuke it. Remove it from the game. Letting stuff respawn is not a big deal. Even in like sub 48 runs, I'll kill bats all the time. Without hesitation and without mercy, I will kill bats. There's just no point. It just makes your life a misery. You have no run ever. Why kill the bat? Fuck the bat. No one likes the bat, that's why. Take a step in here. Good. Fought it in time. Very mage. Okay, so in this example you were able to hit the major because the melee was stalled, but if you couldn't, this wouldn't be a phantom. It isn't anyway, never mind. Pre-Scythe Tech mentality? Well, the funny thing is, Scythe Tech only kind of arose at the same time that we decided bats were, like, worth keeping alive. But bats are not, like, worth keeping alive. I think you should have killed the bat, yeah. You want to be piping this guy as well. That's not a bad HP to T-bow at, but yeah. Okay. In this scenario, I guess this is fine. Let's see how it plays out. You're getting kind of shafted with the XP drops here, not gonna lie. Unlucky. Good movement here. Get another chin off. Okay, so you kind of lost a couple of ticks here, so chin here. That XP is not 160. If it's not 160, there are 2 alive, therefore a second chin is valuable. But instead you just like wait the tick here, It's not worth it. Just chin these guys again. They get chinned anyway, so you may as well just done that tick early. Yeah, good. Run up into the melee. That major is now not in range of a T-bow, which means you have to run up into the range of it. So this start you have here, if you start on suggested tile, which is here, you have 2 ticks until the melee hits you from spawn. So tick 1, tick 2, prey flick melee 3rd tick, and you're in range of everything. Whereas if you start here and you move back like that, this is the right thing to do, but now you're not in range. Now you're forced to pipe the melee, and it becomes a bit awkward. If you hit really big on melee twice in a row, that melee may not be alive, and it might get respawned. And now you got to do this awkward movement getting to the major. You're not a bad player. You're at a stage where you're about to sub 50s, so be aggressive, especially on simple waves. And this is a really simple wave, so. Anytime now. Good Scythe. Yep. Same thing again. Just start here. And you had more time there, I think, so let me count the ticks. Attack, 2, 3, 4, 5. Attack, yeah. So you came out here a tick early. If you stay behind the pillar for 1 more tick and use the entire length of the barrage duration, I'm pretty sure you can hit the major on tick, and therefore not be in this like weird position. It turned out okay though. But give yourself every advantage every tick that you have. Because this is one of the weird things about using that side of the pillar. If you consider what that movement actually does in comparison to how fast the major comes towards you, normally when you're running, you're moving 2 tiles at a time, but when you're constrained by the pillar, you actually only move 1 tile at a time. So what I mean by this is if you're standing here and you attack the major, you haven't run into the major, you've walked into the major in comparison. In other words, you may as well let the major walk into you. Same thing, but it's easier timing, if that makes sense. I would spec the melee here. You got 50 spec, 70 HP, spec it. You got a double bat wave coming, which means it is a non-complex, sorry, it is a complex wave, and you do not want to be barraging complex waves. This is just unlucky. Welcome to Scythe. Nah, this is reactionary. Come to this tile always. This tile is just better in most cases. If this bat didn't exist and the nibblers died, I would now come to this tile, but it's a different story. Because you can go to the bat safe spot here, and it's better because the bat is safe spotted. Killing the bat there, completely fine. I like the movement here. Your pillar is gone. Unlucky. When the HP of the major is that low, and I don't know, this is like at the point where you would consider doing blowpipe on melee. And there are some things you can do, especially in this circumstance that you're given, to make life a lot easier and confirm the melee kill. The most obvious thing that you can do is to spec the melee with the blowpipe while standing quite far away from it. So if you stand like over here on this side of the pillar, like 2 tiles away, and you spec it, now you have an extra tick to decide whether or not it's dead, and therefore go on the major. And then you can do like a pipe into a Scythe on the major, and it at most gets 1 attack off, if that. But it is worth doing. Worth killing in last. If you use the start tile, you will be 2 ticked here without having to linger and make that awkward decision. And now you are once again forced back onto the north pillar. And now the melee's dead, it might respawn. Not ideal. The better solution here is start up here, set up the immediate 2 tick, kill that guy, and then run directly to the south side of the blob. From the south side of the blob, you can take a melee hit on the blob mage tick with the major, and then you can bring the melee round so you can run around the west side of the blob into the north side, and then start standing here for the melee, which will have not dug. There's a set piece here, basically. This is a really good spawn. You can do the same thing here. If that respawns, come to this tile here, take the melee hits in and out, and then come back around the blob. A lot of the mistakes are starting tile, yeah. This is a 50-17 nucleotide run. Okay, so you're in a position where you are basically on south pillar. So actually go to south pillar, it will help. Because in this position here, at this point you can't go to the blob, it's too late. You're kind of committed, so go straight to the pillar. You could be on that tile right now. One more attack, onto the pillar, blob drag, blob drag, blob drag, blob drag, blob drag, blob drag, blob drag. The blob would now be behind the melee. Just a thought. This is more about making use of the scenario given. So the blob would be here, which means the 2 ticks that you just lost wouldn't have been lost. Sure. Start one tile further south. The start tile is 2 tiles southwest of the bat's A spot. You can go to the bat safe spot here. Gotta go there early though, set up the 2 tick. Oh, you can't go there, okay, you have to drag the major. Normally I start more central and I would just nuke the bat, so if you were using the start tile, you would just spec this guy with blowpipe and kill it. There would already be a 2 tick setup here, so... yeah, this is fine. Trying to get that melee to not dig on you. Ah! Sure, it's unlucky timing. Take a step in. Good. I'm back on the melee. Finish the melee here. Good. Kill melee mini blob, then major. Perfect. Yellow FC. You didn't give it enough time here. That's not a server thing, you click too fast. But your stand right now, you can very easily just click the major. And if you, again, this is a start tile thing, if you use the start tile, the major and the blob will see you immediately and be 2 ticked. So this is a case of give it some time and just click the major. Run all the way to south pillar, safe spotted, good game. What kind of times in Inferno do I find impressive? I don't really give a fuck about the time. It matters how you play the wave. And by this is not good. Sorry, give me a second here. So this wave spawn is like kill, run south. That's what you should do. As far as times go, the time is impressive if it's like sub 48. But more so it matters when you actually watch the run, what kind of plays and solves and micromanagement did they do? More so than how fast the run was. Because ultimately you can just get lucky. It's less likely to get lucky enough to get those times unless you are playing well in the first place. But sub 48 is a good time right now where you are clearly doing things right and you got lucky. So I think that's a mage shit, I'm not sure. Anyway. Let's see what happens. So you're on this tile, this is fine. And you're given a bit of a shit position because realistically these bats are going to get to you no matter what you do unless you had run south. But you're also on the good tile here because that major is close enough to you that you are able to instantly T-bow and set up a 2 tick here. So the name of the game right now is don't kill the melee, kill the bats. So you would come out and set up a 2 tick. So let's say you kill this bat here, this is fine. And now you want to be moving out immediately. You want to be coming out immediately. So get a T-bow off here and set up the 2 tick. This bat is now safe spotted because it's going to get closed off. So this is a position where you immediately, to make it easy, come out by blowpiping the nibbler. Like right now, blowpipe the nibbler to come out. And then this awkward drag doesn't happen where the bat lets the major go free. And you can instantaneously set up a 2 tick in a better position. Because now you get this just awkward position of, yeah. This isn't as bad as it may seem, and a better way to get out of this is to diagonally path from there to here. So the tile that you're on, you're running over this tile, but you'd be on this tile if you use diagonally pathed. It's not terribly bad, it's just a bit awkward. And the melee is in a really great position, but you can't do it because there you go. This is good. Send you a run soon. I'll flame anytime. Yeah, so like, I know I've talked about it so much at this point, but the biggest thing in your run to improve at like a base level is the starting tile. You don't have to use the tile until Major Ranger, but you should definitely use it until Major. But even a spawn like this, if you start Central on that tile, you're like, okay, this is kind of fucked, what do I do? But the option is really simple. It's like, Mage Prey Start, hit Nibblers, flick the melee, flick the blob, flick back to Major, run southwest, hit the Major, flicking 2-tick, because the 2-tick is set up. And that may not sound too obvious, but it's really, really simple to do. And this puts you in a position where, like, at most you have one Nibbler on North Pillar, which is fine HP at this stage. And you don't have to wait for this shit to drag in on you. You don't chance anything either. This is fine though, this is completely fine. But there's very few positions that end up badly by starting center if you're fast on the trigger finger. The question right now is, do you want the melee to dig? And if so, where to? And if not, should you go and prevent it? If you don't want the melee to dig, you should try and prevent it. It's actually dug to a good position. Take a step round the pillar here. If you stand on this tile here, the melee will drag to you. But you can don't hit the melee. This is a useful melee because you can drag it up into the blob. Good movement. Good. Yeah, that was the You didn't do anything wrong here. I just want to point out for people who might do things wrong here. If you see a really large XP drop like 141 like this, so a lot of the time, you played this correctly, but a lot of the time people see 141 XP and they're like, oh shit, there's only one alive. And they'll switch to a blowpipe and they'll click the one that they think is alive at the end. But the reality is you could have 2 alive, you could have 3 alive. So the right thing to do here is to do 1 bow hit on the major or a pipe hit on the melee. And then return to this after you see how many are alive here. But this was played correctly. It's just an interesting point. Okay, now you want to start making your way into a position that does not look okay. The main thing right now is you want to be in blowpipe range of the major, and the easiest way to do that is to turn off run and walk towards it between hits. Running will cause issues, of course, but yeah. But walking with a melee like that is very good, because nothing behind it can get through. Bat-wise, anyway. I would look to pre-pot super combat here, and then Scythe. You have done, and Scythe is coming up after this hit. Perfect. We are through at 27:42. Good movement. Get a hit and move in. Perfect. There's always a smoother solution, but you didn't lose ticks. So. Okay. About that tick loss thing. That was fine then. Like that. It's quite important. This is another little thing to keep in mind. When you are in a position to finish a ranger like this, if you see that happen on screen, so this is a really key note for anyone doing Scythe tech. If you see an XP drop like that, on a ranger like that, you have to scythe it on the next tick or you're going to waste time. And the main thing is, if you just had a large XP drop, firstly, it's going into threshold, so like scythe it anyway. But even if it wasn't quite threshold, it's not a bad thing to do. Because your next pipe hit is likely to just be dog shit or massive. But you know, I don't know. My gut instinct says you see that, you just scythe it. Because you're either when you hit that large, you've pushed it down not just into threshold, but large enough that any further pipe hit has a chance to either kill it, or you've wasted the pipe hit anyway because the scythe is so likely to kill it. I guess maybe that's the better way of putting it. But large pipe hits are better scythe targets than small pipe hits. They are more easy to confirm to be good. Good movement. This is something that you didn't do very good earlier, and the same thing has happened again. So in this position, give yourself time to use all of the ticks available. So if we go back a little bit here, count the ticks. So attack, 2, 3, 4, attack. And you can be behind the pillar here again, and it'll be the same outcome. I think you'll lose the tick here no matter what on this spawn. I guess you could come out just faster. I mean, there are... You could come out here and take a range hit, then run to the major, which is like slightly better. But if you're going to come out this way, I think it's just better to give it time every time. Or at the very least, I should say, path to this tile. Otherwise, it's going to be a bit awkward. Actually, I don't know. I suppose you could start here. This is definitely a nuke the bat wave, though. Yeah. This is a confirm the bat dies wave as well. Okay, here we go. Sure. Hello, bat. Just kill it. Yeah. Bat bad. Scythe here. Too late. Same problem as last wave. You're pushing it into threshold with a big XP drop. Just kill it. Nah, don't bother with this shit. Normally I'm all for kill the bats, get into the line of sight of the major, but this is not worth it. That bat is safe spotted eventually. So like, you have to balance what goes on here, because if you one-shot the bat, it's going to change how you play the wave. But for here, you have time from the barrage, so you need to use that time. Much in the same way as like anything beforehand, you can probably start this one by standing middle of the north pillar, and then you can jump out into a mage attack if you want to. But here it's just like, you're tanking bats for no reason. It would have been nicer to check whether this bat dies, and then run out into the major, or run out to the bat safe spot more particularly. So, I don't know, man, you really like fighting bats is all I'm going to say. I don't like fighting bats. Fuck bats. A lot of the brain power in a wave is spent trying to heavily avoid interacting with bats. Whether that be killing them before they have time to interact much with you, or finding creative safe spots or ways to prevent them from getting to you in the first place. This is all fine though. I can begin skipping ahead here. I'm getting on a bit. Said something about NPC indicator for nibs. You can see where they're stacked. Yeah, you can make it so if it's you can change the opacity. This is a nucleotide replay. You can change the opacity of the outline so that it stacks up. Nicely done. Are you on tick with the blob? Yes. No faulting this. This is fine. When I do this, I normally come out a tick earlier, so I don't lose a tick on the major when it's the far away one, but I do that at the risk of not 2-ticking the blob, so this is completely fine. Piping good. Target change good. The concept right now to put into play is once again conditioning. You can get the ranger to a suitable HP that you are likely to kill it with a chin, and then go after the blob. And the important thing when doing this is to remember that nowadays, because Scythe tech exists, it doesn't actually matter if you kill the ranger because you'll still save time on the blob. So condition, condition, condition. It's not quite ready. I would have done 1 or 2 more pipe bits here, and then I would have gone after the blob. Because the chin is not killing that. No. As it happens, you haven't lost any ticks here, but you haven't scythed it, so... You did nothing wrong, but you didn't potentially gain time. So... Nibbler on the south pillar 50%. This guy's gonna die, this is fine. Isn't there a plugin that lists how many NPCs are on a tile? There's no way there's one on... Actually, maybe there is one on Plugin Hub. I don't really think you need it, but it could help a little bit for sure. So we should be looking at the blob and the bat here. Nah. Wait, yes? So, in terms of the setup here, this is correct, I think. Yeah, this is correct. The only thing you could have potentially done better was on the second hit here to come back around, because if the bat doesn't die, it drags over the major, provided you stand on this tile here, I think. What is it if you go around? Oh, I can't remember this, man. I know it when I see it, but I do. Okay, forget whatever I just said. Too late. There is only 1 nibbler on that pillar, and you can get this in blowpipe range, so that's just -1 tick. Scythe was a little bit higher there. Only a little bit. 1 tick. Every tick matters. I don't know why the click didn't go off there. You might have clicked back a bit early, so click, click. A bit early. Your south pillar is basically doomed. In a wave like this, with this complexity, with 2 bats and like 3 other NPCs, this is a complex wave. If nibblers get through on complex waves, you just kind of have to let them unless it's north pillar. So what are your options here? Come back across and deal with bat. Sure, let's see how it goes. Kill the bat, 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 kill the bat. Do not save the pillar. Do not save the pillar. Do not save the pillar. Kill the bat. Okay, this guy you don't have to tank. Yeah, this is horrifying. And you're not on a 2-tick cycle either. Okay, so how do we fix this? What can we do better? So in this position here, you just, let's say you splashed all nibblers, whatever happened. This was a bit, I mean, this is like right on the end of the tick. A bit unlucky, but it was early. So what do you do here? You say fuck the ranger, fuck the bat, fuck the bat. You come over here to the east side of the pillar, and you get the blob on tick, and then you attack the major. So from here, on tick the blob, get the major on a 2-tick cycle, and then if you want to, you can go 1 step further and come a tick up here, and incorporate the ranger into the cycle, safe spot the bat, safe spot that bat on the blob, and now you have a fully self wave. On a 2-tick pattern, as opposed to whatever this is. And if you want to go a step further from there, you can kill the bats and try to save the pillar, although I wouldn't recommend it. This is just a pillar dies moment, so. I don't use stretch mode, no. So if you want to save the thing now, you can do, but it's a bit late, yeah. The name of the game right now is Condition the Ranger. And when you're conditioning the ranger, in this position you want to be 1 tile further west, because you can count 1, 2, 3, 4 tiles for your max blowpipe range. So take a step further west here, and it will give you more time to get to the blob. Because from this position, I guess you can run it in, but it's awkward because of the drag. So now you're going to get a melee drag no matter what here. Ooh, do you? Oh, okay, no, you throw the chin. I thought you were piping it. Yeah. Chin overuse a little bit here. Name of the game is condition this a bit better. Sure, I like this movement. I don't do that enough, I should do that too. Blobs are on-ticked, free wave. This guy dies. We're on here, okay. There's a couple of ways to approach this wave. I'm not sure what the best is. I'm sure this is fine. Okay, you lost the tick with the blowpipe there. Just think about the movement a bit better. Good. Yeah, this is good. One more hit. Good movement. Good, good, good. There are things you can do by killing the back blob first and letting them drag in, but I don't really think they're too worth it, so it's fine. You have options here. That ain't the right one. You're doing this thing where you have like this click here. I don't think this click does anything, because you can click there or you can click there. It's not bad, it's just unnecessary. I think it's unnecessary. I don't know if you actually wasted a tick, I didn't count it, but it seemed unnecessary. Overcautiously? Sure. If you have more HP, you could double kill blobs, go to Ranger and Mega Shin. True, yeah. PTSD from trying? Sure. Free melee here? Yeah. Blowpipe spec melee here? Yep. A lot of the time we say blowpipe spec Ranger or like bat or something, and bats are a good target, but I think I've started to think that melees are a better target because the accuracy is so relevant. The accuracy increase is relevant. And the damage you get off from killing a melee is like just big. Ah, what are you doing? You don't need to do this. So from this tile right here, the Ranger can see you. Go to the bat safe spot, and the bat is going to clump on the nibbler, and you can shin the bat to hit the nibbler. All the while not tanking the bat. Okay, you go back there, but it's too late. Sure. And you can either stand here, or if you want to take a diagonal movement from here, you can also hit it. So you can be one more diagonal back. Southwest. Just optional. The reason for going diagonal southwest here is to pipe the major. So this tile, not this tile here, but one tile further south is a really useful one. Hit that. Corner trap melee. Okay. And it means you're at a more accessible range to this guy as well, so there's that. You want to be close to the Ranger here so you can Scythe. So you would Scythe now, and one more blowpipe hit, -2 ticks, -3, -4 ticks, because -2 for the pipe hit and -2 for the death any, and not overkill. So even that little thing there, like the movement of being, even like right here, it doesn't seem like a lot, right? In this position, you wouldn't think that being a tile closer to the Ranger could be 4 tick time save, but it just ends up being. So don't skimp on the micro movement here. This is a huge time save to be able to Scythe after that XP drop right now. The Ranger is dead. Yeah, it's 4 ticks. Pathing matters a lot more nowadays with Scythe. Gotta be on top of it. And pre-pathing for that. This is a wave where I would try to set up the melee Ranger stack. Kill the bat, set up the major Ranger stack, kill the other bat. If you're dealing with this scenario, take one step further north. And if you're one step further north, or even one step northwest, this melee is never getting to you, period. Whereas now it's kind of awkward. He had a couple of chances to get out, basically. Bat safe spot, good. killing the bat first here is the right idea, instead of the melee. It means that if you are not sure, you don't jump into the bat and get some minus from. Keeping bat alive here is good. Unlucky. You can on-tick this very easily. This isn't worth doing, so... That ranger is... Oh, also, I don't know if you have GPU on, but like throw on GPU mode and like a little bit of draw distance. This helps a lot, but it'd be really nice to see what's out there. But for this, you have a lot of time, so... How do I put this? If you come up to this line here, this is your like baseline. And if you're on this line and you're two-ticking these guys, you can run into the ranger a lot easier. And it doesn't let the melee past. So this is a straight up just like come here, mage, range, and then go in. Otherwise you get this kind of like on-ticked awkwardness, right? And now you get this in the mix as well. This is one of those things that like, in practice, in both theory and practice, I think you take less damage from whatever shit you get with the ranger and the melee timing than you would ever do from taking like 1 or 2 range hits from ranger. Worst case scenario, yeah, you got to come back, but it's worth trying to set up. What's your FPS? I see. Piping is good here. Ideally, you actually take a hit here and then clump it with the blob. You want to be hitting the blob here and then the melee, because that ranger is a little bit out of place. I don't know if you can easily access it unless you stand here. Nice click. This is fine. One dose of brew here used. Okay. Looks fine to me. Good off tick. Wait, is it off tick? Yeah, it is, right? Sure, this is nice. I like it. You can do 2 blowpipe hits here. So in this position, I know you're low HP, but even without that, I think you can be on the middle of the pillar here. And you can come out and do a pipe and a pipe. And because you're on this tile here, you're not interrupting any of the cycle that you might get hit for. Sorry, you're not getting, what's the word? You're not interrupting anything going on here. And from there, you can run back to here on the second tick of the second blowpipe and chin, or you can run across and across again. But 2 pipes instead of 1 chin is really valuable there, and it's a nice set piece. So. Scythe good. You've been using a lot of brew in these waves. This is going to drag you out. I think? No? Okay. I would say the use of brew in this manner is inefficient. So I have a pretty set rule of thumb. Whenever I brew, I will always use 2 doses of brew. At least 2 doses of brew. The main reason for this is because I don't want to dig in like this to my regular range pot. I like to redivine. So by default, anytime I brew, I've lost 5 HP from that at a base level. So I think he brought 4 brews. So I would try and be a bit more careful with brew. Going for the nibbler there isn't very bad, but I would have definitely just blowpiped it. So you could make this a bit better by... You're in this position where like, after the melee's dead, assuming you were standing on this tile where my mouse is, you can instantly pipe that into a 2-tick here, and then you can take a step back and incorporate major on a 2-tick over this side, or you could run over to the west side, take the bat out, and incorporate major on this side over here. But regardless, however you do this, it's choose a method that doesn't lose you ticks and a method that doesn't require you to chin like that. No chinnable targets, keep hitting major. Moved away from the blob, good. Chin now, chin now. One more hit and chin. Okay, so the bats are chinnable, they're not anymore. Good. Take a step back here. Okay, you need to take a step back here, otherwise the ranger doesn't move in. It's some dumb pathing shit, I think. I know the major was targeted with that bat as well, so. Take a step back here. Okay, good, you did it. Bring 3 so you have 1 for waves and 2 for skip. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with 3 brews, but I think 4 is overall better. If you're in this position where you have time, that's a very low barrage drop. Come directly back to this spot here and you can get a chin off without anything seeing you from this far away. More often than not, if you splash and you notice the splash, you can watch for the NPC that has the splash animation and target it directly. But this is fine. I mean, you kept good control of your pillar, so this is fine. Take a step back here and you won't be hit by the ranger if you take a step back. Major dies fast, so that's okay. I like this movement, this is good. You're not sure where the ranger's gonna be, so this is fine. That's the chin you should have done earlier on, but that's okay. This is gonna be separate melee, but that's okay. We're just kind of dealing with stuff at this point. And now you should get a nice setup here. Oh no, don't. So the setup for this side is not to go around over here, it's to stay over on these 2 tiles, preferably the one closest to the center of the pillar. And once this guy dies, don't step back, stand still, and let the melee drag in directly along this line. And the melee will be behind the ranger here and you can chin it. But doing this means there will be no melee to chin. You can drag it into position from this position, but you have to do some jank pathing to make it work. It's not so great. So, yeah. Scythe to finish. No problem. Yeah, so you're burning brews for this. Pathing movement is good here. What you should be doing... Whoa! What does that click? This is my worst nightmare, so this is not good. If that guy paths out on you, I don't know. I don't like this. I think this is very big scary. Nah, bro. And the problem with this is that now you have to set up the melee mage coming around this way. I think it's better to just keep things simple and click that nibbler. So from this position here, all you have to do is wait for the mage to attack you, click that nibbler, pray range, and it will drag you out into line of sight of the ranger. And then you have this 2-tick going on. This is so scary. Have boomer clicks? Yeah. This is why VoD review is like, I don't know, it's kind of become a meme at this point. Like, you're doing something wrong, just go VoD review, but it's really important. Okay. Slight time here. Chin overuse the range here. Okay, all of this shit can be avoided by piping and getting a 2-tick with the major and ranger. Prepare for Scythe. Scythe. Good. So we have major and rangers. Unlucky. I'd actually just go, your pillar is low enough and the XP drop was bad enough that I would have gone back here and immediately barraged again. Because now that guy's gonna see you, right? Yeah, okay. So you got to do it early rather than later, because anything coming from the back there, you have time to do it for the first bit, but never for this bit. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Sure. I can smell the panic in the air. Why not just run Wester Phillips to begin with? Yeah, all that, yeah. That's probably a better solution. Just run west. Unlucky Scythe. Is that a potion on the ground? Oh, you have Sandfuse, okay. I thought you were doing this on two doses. That's better. Yeah, we'll ignore this shit. What you can do, it's a bit meme, but like if you ever end up in this scenario, stand like in the middle of the room, pray mage into melee, and you'll get a nice clump. And then you can go and barrage it, but yeah. This is pretty scuffed. Yeah, the dragging here is useful. The dragging here is useful. Perfect HP. And a Scythe is to finish. Scythe. Scythe. Yes. One tick lost there. I used to lose that. I used to lose that tick on Jad spawn a lot. Okay. Jad etiquette 101. So when you're dealing with Jads, you're starting in one of the two potential places that are okay to start in. I wish I could point on screen, but like where my mouse is, one tile further south is okay, and likewise completely mirrored on this side, where my mouse is right now is good as well. And this is a bit weird to explain, but this line where they pull onto the south side of Jad is based on NPC movement to like the south side, so that's why you start there. But it is better to start on the north side because it is easier to chin the south side to get a better clump. Whereas it is not so easy to chin this side, which means you want to blowpipe more commonly onto the north side. Aaron, thank you for the 15 months, good sir. I don't think it shows up because I don't have my alerts on, but I see it, bro. Thank you. So first of all, don't start here. Start on the north side of every Jad, which makes for better clump timing and chin availability as opposed to the south side. Sorry, as opposed to the north side. And the second thing to know about Jads is that if you're starting here, your T-bow has 0 tick delay. Sorry, this is the minimal delay that your T-bow has before attacking Jad. And what you want to do is you want to engineer delay. And the way you see people do this in the old VoDs is to start over here somewhere and run into him, so you're one tile away. But we did some work on this, and it turns out that your T-bow only loses a tick if you go 7 tiles out, or like 8 tiles out. So if you're standing here, this is a 1 tick until it hits. If you take 1 step backwards, this is a 2 tick until it hits. And to make it 3 tick, you have to be like back here somewhere, which isn't worth it. So what you want to do is on the north side of Jad, start 3 tiles out, and on the XP drop that you think procs healers, take 1 step in. This has 2 effects. One is it tends to trap healers, and the other one is you have 1 tick extra until healers spawn, giving you more time to choose a target and get a better chin off. And the third thing to note about this is nowadays for single Jad, we don't just start 1 tile. Sorry, for single Jad, we don't start 2 tiles out. Sorry, Jesus. For single Jad, we don't just start 2 tiles out and move in 1, we move in 2 tiles. So we're starting in melee range, which blocks even more potential healers from scooting underneath you. But moving 1 tile in is fine if you don't have much HP. So if you're like 20-30 HP, don't go all the way in because it means you can't pray flick as well. But if you have like 70 HP, go all the way in and pray melee. So this hit here would be 1 tick further delayed. These healers wouldn't spawn for 1 more tick, which means they don't heal as much. And then as far as the clumping goes, this guy and this guy would be able to be caught by chinning Jad. This guy would be stuck, so in other words, your spawn in this scenario would be to be chin, pipe, pipe. Whereas right now it's chin 1, pipe, and chin, as opposed to chin, pipe, pipe. So this is -1 tick, right? It doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's a free tick. All that for starting in a different location and doing something. Oh, and Jad doesn't get healed as much because you have a better location, so, you know. But if you apply this concept to all 3 Jads, 3 ticks for free. Sorry, 5 ticks. No, sorry, 4 ticks. I'm stupid. Blowpipe this. T-bow's fine, but blowpipe this. Armor off can help, but no biggie. Gotta heal. This is the correct tile to start in. So yeah, where you start here, this is the tile you want to start on, and likewise move in 1 tile to that tile there. 2 tiles out at northwest, yes, and then move in 1 tile for triples and 2 tiles for single Jads. If you're low on prayer, just flick rigger here, you got loads of time. Why do you move in 1? Because of T-bow delay. You are taking the T-bow delay from 2 ticks to 1 tick. And you want the delay to be there for when you proc healers, and you don't want it to be there at the end of the kill. So you generate delay to take it away at an optimal time. And likewise, start on the north side, it's just better. Yeah, okay, I mean, that was a hella chin, but start on the north side. It's pretty rare you get that. Can happen on the north side as well. Does the shorter delay matter if it's not the last Jad? Yes. You want, so imagine it's this Jad. On the last kill, sorry. It's not so much about the shorter delay at the end of these Jads, but it's about closing the gap of the delay that you generated. So you have to move in anyway because you're going to trap healers, which is, so there's 3 benefits. It's one is like, you're generating delay for healers, and then you're getting rid of the delay. You're in a position to be likely to, you're in a better position to be likely to trap more healers. And the Jad dies earlier, so if you are tanking healers, now you're not tanking them for as long. It has 3 benefits. It's a bit of all of that. So, start over here, and it's a single Jad, so we can move all the way in. And do it on the north side. I am nearly out of tea. So, if we compare this spawn to what it would be like starting on that side, as we proc Jad, this healer over here is safe spotted, and these 2 can be caught with a singular chin on either of the healers or Jad, as opposed to 1 chin, 2 chin. Simple. It's just better. It's not always better, but it's more commonly better. Blowpipe. T-bow's fine again, but blowpipe is slightly better. And if you want to go for style points, you can chin the healers. Okay, so a rocket. I'll look at supplies in a second. Supplies change the way you do Zuk a little bit as well. Or can do. They're rocking tons of restore, tons of brew. Not the best amount of range pot, but that's due to bad brew habiting in the earlier waves, so that's fine. HP is 71, prayer and run is great, sure. And we're entering Zuk at 47.26.5, so on average your Zuk is going to be like 310, 315. So this is on average going to be like a 50-30 to 50-50 run. Anything faster, good RNG. So we start with an 83 or an 82. I can't remember what the XP is. Let's see how we play. The goal here is, I mean, you're just not missing ticks here. So the question is like, at what point do you start missing ticks and how do we minimize that? I mean, the hits are great right now though. There are some things you can do at healers to make life easier for yourself. These are amazing hits. Is this a no set? This is a no set, right? This is a no set. 601, get out. That's so unlucky. Oh, come on, you noodled 3 times. Okay, the damage is amazing, so it's no biggie. Specs are fine, 99 HP, kill the ranger. This is fine. Saving a tick by going for Zuk, the better, easier target, sure. I commonly lose a tick there as well. Can do better than that, but it is what it is. Yeah, I do the same thing. I try to make sure it happens. That's gonna be 1 tick off, I think, but I'm not sure because it is attacking shield. 2 ticks. You're fine. If in doubt, wing it. I don't blame you. That's fine. So lesson number 1 of dealing with healers is, ideally, in the perfect skip, you want to be 115 brood. And if you consider that, yes, you are technically losing like 2 HP from the brew that you could have had, compared to being higher at the start, it's kind of a no-brainer. So, for starters, take the time to move your supplies to the top left of your inventory. Have them actively stacked up. You can do this doing triple jads, or you can do it doing single jab, whatever. But have it like orderly lined up. It helps a lot. And in this case, you can either brew divine to get to like 110. Brew divine is very good right now, and you can sip the stamina whenever you want. Just get rid of it. Take it out of the equation. It's much better. If you have full range pots or 2 more doses, let's say, brew into range pot would be better as well. But it's important to be like max brewed. Let's see how the healers go. Okay, you also have 2 doses of Sanfew and you're flicking prez. This is a huge no-no. Same idea as flicking Augury at the very start. It's needless. It's effort where you don't have to have effort. And it takes away from brain processing stuff better and faster and correctly and saving you actual like time in the run. So right now your brain is like, I flick prayer, and your brain should be, I should brew. So it's important. That's healers. Chins out. Low pipe out. Chin here is fine. Pipe there into the T-bow. Good. Now, moving there is a bit dangerous because that major is definitely not dragged right now. So I hope it doesn't on-tick. No, it doesn't. Okay. Through here. 1 tick lost. Nice hit. You could brew there as well. Okay. If you are below 95 HP, brew. If you have a window to brew, if in doubt, brew. It's one of those things where the lower your HP gets, the more chance the higher chance you have of dying if a mistake occurs in the first place. And even if, well, actually, I don't know, I lost my train of thought. So, I don't know, there's a few things that go into this, but one is just like having the HP in the first place allows you to make better decisions or focus less on problems. Having your focus be almost entirely on tick saving is much better than, I don't know how to explain this, it's just better to, so you're at like 74 right now? Bad, so that, I don't know, yeah, this needs some work. Yeah. I know it's like a nervous thing on PB, like everyone gets it, right? But sure. Okay. That's just the do more and practice more kind of thing. Okay. So I mean, you clicked stuff. 171, do more. Do more with these things in mind, I guess, and especially at the end there, having the. I'm going to talk about it because we're already at this stage, but the concept of converting runs is very important. The conversion of a run can only occur once you get to Jad. And the important takeaway is some runs are more likely to be converted than others. Because once you hit Jads, you're basically at the mercy of RNG. The things that determine how well you're likely to be able to convert the run into a usable time or a good time or a PB, whatever, is down to the amount of supplies that you have, your current HP, and this doesn't really count, but kind of your state of mind. So you have to be aware of what you're working with, and you have to be aware of being in a position to convert your run. And typically, the way I look at it is, if you're going into Zuk with 2 full brews at 75 HP or higher, such that you are likely to get them back from blowpipe specking, and you have 2 full range pots, you are in a position to maximally convert your run. Whereas if you're going into Zuk with less than 2 brews, or less than 2 range pots, or less than 75 HP, unless you have the supplies to make up for that, you are in a position that is not so good to convert your run. And a lot of those concepts trickle back to like how you brew mattering, so like 1 dose at a time not being efficient because you're using more range pot to get that back. And it means that you're less likely to be wanting to go to 115 and use another dose of range pot, because then you're down to 4 doses instead of 5 doses, right? These are like trickling concepts that continue to impact each other. But outside of all the little comments, the main thing is starting tile needs to be corrected. Hey, Sap, you gotta get used to that. None of the solves were particularly bad. Kill bats, so like starting tile, kill bats. Don't clump major melee on blobs. Don't clump major melee on mini blobs. Try and engage with chins a bit more on blob and melee targets. Consider the concepts of conditioning, conversion, complexity, the 3 C's of Inferno. We're going to start calling them that. But complexity, conservation, and whatever, just everything is C. And I think you got yourself a pretty good, a good baseline to work with. I think that's all I got. Did I make that one up? No, I've been calling them. I've been calling them. I've been talking about the concept for ages, right? It is the 3 things though, right? At the end of the day, it's the 3 C's of Inferno, and they're the things that can make you the most time. So yeah, interesting run. I learned a couple of things. Should turn this into a college course. It already is. How much do you think he's paying me? So much money. I don't know. There has not been a singular VoD review in which I have not learnt something myself. So it's always quite good. Alright,